Welcome back to Friday Afternoon Catholic. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the Archbishop of Kansas City's decision to encourage or to direct his pastors of all the parishes in his archdiocese to begin separating themselves from Girl Scout troops and the Girl Scouts of the United States of America, and why this is an excellent decision for the Catholic Church in that diocese, and why it would be a good decision, I think, in all dioceses, given the problematic things that have come through the Girl Scouts and some of the other types of organizations that are out there for kids today. So let's talk a little bit first about what Archbishop Naumann's decision actually said. The decision actually said, and the directive actually is, that parishes who currently have Girl Scout troops affiliated with them begin phasing that out and introducing a new group called American Heritage Girls into their parishes. The reasons for this is that American Heritage Girls is a Christian-based organization that focuses on all the things that really Girl Scouts used to focus on, while maintaining a very distinct Christian flair to everything they do. Over the past, probably 10, 15, 20 years, little by little at first, and now in leaps and bounds, the Girl Scouts of the United States of America has really changed their position on many things. As a matter of fact, this actually started probably in the late 60s or early 70s, when Girl Scouts of the United States of America formed another organization which is called the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts, called WAGs. The Girl Scouts of the United States of America helped form WAGs back in 1971, so that WAGs could go out and promote some of the things that Girl Scouts of the United States of America wanted to promote. One of those things ends up being abortion and contraception, and things like kind of this gender ideology that's developed just in the past few years. And so you look back and say, okay, Girl Scouts of the United States of America started WAGs a little over 45 years ago, and now we have Girl Scouts of the United States of America donating money to WAGs to promote these things that Girl Scouts of the United States of America says that they don't promote to the American girls. But what they do is they offer opportunities for local American Girl Scouts to travel to these international conferences and meetings to learn about what WAGs really does. And that is to really promote an agenda of immoral behavior, an agenda that doesn't respect the dignity of the human person, that doesn't respect the dignity of women and children. And so WAGs is a decidedly non-Christian organization that actually attacks Christian ideals. So for a local parish to sponsor a Girl Scouts troop who gets its affiliation or gets its charter from Girl Scouts of the United States of America, who started WAGs, who promotes abortion and transgenderism and things like that worldwide, is really contrary to the teachings of the Catholic Church. So that's one reason why it's a really good decision that Archbishop Naumann has made to start separating the Archdiocese of Kansas City from these organizations. Now, the other thing that he has done is he hasn't said a few things. He hasn't said that Catholics cannot belong to Girl Scouts of the United States of America or to the local troops. And I suppose this is because there are individual troops all across the country that are pro-life, are pro-family, are promoters of chastity and virtue. And so to say that the local organizations all have to stop would be excessive, I think, at this point. I know of a few locally that I think are run by very, very sound Christians and Catholics who probably teach their kids everything I would teach my own kids. It's just that I wouldn't want my daughters affiliated with any of these troops because of this string tied to WAGs and Planned Parenthood and all these other things that that WAG supports. And the money from the Girl Scouts of the United States of America ends up in WAGs, some of it anyway. And some of the money that ends up in WAGs, a huge amount actually, ends up in the hands of things like Planned Parenthood and the Planned Parenthood Federation that then promotes these anti-Christian ideals. The other thing that the Archbishop has not done, he has not condemned Girl Scouts in the United States of America. He has not condemned individual Scout leaders. He has not condemned the children. And he has not taken away all opportunities to do everything that they can do in Girl Scouts, because really everything that you can do in Girl Scouts is available in the American Heritage Girls. The one thing that isn't available is learning about people like Wendy Davis, the pro-abortion senator from Texas who made the big headlines a few years ago trying to filibuster a bill in the Texas Senate. You won't be able to learn about in the American Heritage Girls people like maybe Hillary Clinton, who is a huge champion of abortion, unlimited abortion. So to take away some of these influences, you won't be able to travel to these international conferences for WAGs or the Planned Parenthood Federation or these other things while still being affiliated with the Girl Scouts troop, because you're in American Heritage Girls, and American Heritage Girls doesn't promote that type of stuff. So it'll really insulate our young children, our daughters, from that twisted ideology that in order to be an empowered woman, you have to have contraception. In order to be an empowered woman, you have to have access to abortion. Those are lies from the 1960s that people are finally starting to see, that is a lie. That's not true. The dignity of the human person is really what gives us our truest freedom, because that comes from God. It's natural law, respecting each other, respecting each other's humanity, and respecting my own humanity as a human person, and not engaging that type of ideology and those behaviors is truly empowering. And that things like contraception and abortion and the homosexual behavior is very enslaving, and it doesn't allow people to truly live out their calling as human beings. What they do is they inject a whole bunch of things into their lives that is just really, really unhealthy, both physically unhealthy and can be very psychologically damaging as well. Not to mention the eternal loss of your salvation because of the decisions and the behaviors that you've made here on earth. So when it comes to the end of their life and their particular judgment, and they're judged by Jesus Christ, it's going to be extremely difficult for them, and they really risk the distinct likelihood, if they know right from wrong and have chosen them wrong, they have the distinct likelihood of spending eternity in hell. And so we don't want that to happen to anybody. We certainly don't want that to happen to the little girls in our communities who are simply trying to learn how to be chaste and virtuous, honorable women. We don't want them being introduced to all these really, really destructive ideas that we've seen kind of come out of the national office of Girl Scouts of the United States of America. So this decision from the Archdiocese of Kansas City is a great decision. I hope that a number of actually all the dioceses follow suit. I think that St. Louis made a similar decision. The Archdiocese of St. Louis made this decision a year or so ago. I think that our children will be healthier, our families will be healthier, and our parishes will be healthier, because having this type of an element just in our local churches can be very divisive. For instance, a few years ago, when I simply started posting some articles and some concerns that I had about Girl Scouts of the United States of America, I was attacked very vigorously by people from across the state, some local, some who had moved away, some from other parts of the state, that said I was being I was hurting girls. I was hurting our local girls. when in fact what I was trying to do is educate people as to the real concerns out there, and the fact that the purchasing of Girl Scout cookies actually helps fund abortion. Well, how does that happen? Well, here's how it happens. So the Girl Scouts of the United States of America every year enters into a couple of contracts for very, very large bakeries to bake all of the Girl Scout cookies for that year. And it might be a multi-year contract. So they might enter into this contract every 5 or 10 years, who knows. But in any event, there's several bakeries that try to get this contract from Girl Scouts of the United States of America, because it is a very lucrative moneymaker for these bakeries. They get to bake, I think by some years' estimates, over 175 million cookies. And each cookie is sold at a profit that goes back to the bakery. So Girl Scouts of the United States of America turns to these bakeries and say, it's time to bid our contract. And we estimate that there's going to be 175 million cookies to be baked next year, or over the course, it might go up a little bit each year, down hopefully each year. And so we think that the value of this contract is X, but you guys bid on it. So these bakeries bid on it, and they bid on it according to the profit that they think they can make. So that money goes directly to Girl Scouts of the United States of America. The cookie sales themselves don't, because it's all based on projected cookie sales. So the more cookies that are sold, the more value those contracts have, the more money that goes to the Girl Scouts of the United States of America. So the cookie sales locally, I think that honestly it's true that the sales income from all those cookies goes to the local troop. Well, that's great. But what you're doing is you are creating a demand that's going to be handled in the next contract letting. And the more cookies sold this year are going to increase the future contract price, which increases the amount of money that goes to the Girl Scouts of the United States of America. So the cookie sales in and of themselves do indirectly, or at least anticipate, an income for Girl Scouts of the United States of America. And the cookies that are sold today have already produced that income for Girl Scouts of the United States of America, the national office. So then the Girl Scouts of the United States of America turns around and does a few things. They do things for the local kids. They do things for kids across the country. But they also donate over $1 million to WAGs, the international Girl Scouts, really is what they are, the World Association of Girl Guides and Girl Scouts. And that organization, which was started by Girl Scouts of the United States of America, incorporated by them in 1971, that organization then goes out and promotes things like contraceptive use, abortion, and this transgenderism worldwide. And this is the ideological colonization that Pope Francis talks about when he says that these wealthy countries are trying to inject that country's ideals into these poor countries around the world, third and fourth world countries, by saying, yeah, we can give you teachers and medical help and money and materials, but you have to allow us to sell you, or to not sell you, but to inject this information into your school system, into your local neighborhoods, into your communities. So we're educating women about abortion and contraception, and we're educating people that transgenderism is good and healthy, and that homosexual behavior is nothing to worry about. It's natural. And that's what this ideological colonization is, and that's what places like WAGs does. And they do it through places like Planned Parenthood, organizations like the Planned Parenthood Federation, and groups like that through the UN. And so that's really the concern, is that the local cookie sales increase the future income for Girl Scouts of the United States of America, which then they use to do a number of things, one of which is this ideological colonization, promoting of abortion, contraception, homosexual behavior, and transgenderism. So Archbishop Naumann has done a great thing, and it's my hope that people reach out to him in his diocese and the other bishops across the country who have done the same thing or will do the same thing soon, and say, thank you very much for doing that. Because there's this habit, or there's this phenomenon among people who are orthodox in the Catholic Church, or people who have a conservative political view, people who are traditional. And that is that when something bad happens, they speak up and they say, well, this is ridiculous, and so we're going to protest Planned Parenthood, and we're going to march for life, and we're going to start websites and educate people about Girl Scouts United States of America and their promotion of things like abortion and immorality. But when good things happen, when Archbishop Cordileone in San Francisco starts reforming the Catholic school system, when Bishop Bruskowitz of Lincoln, the former bishop, the retired bishop of the Lincoln Diocese, speaks out against Masonry, when Archbishop Naumann says, hey, we aren't going to allow these organizations to continue to work in our parishes because they're contrary to our faith. When those good things happen, good people remain quiet, and then it gives rise to the other side of the issue, the abortion advocates, the people who are anti-Catholic, the people who just don't get it. They make a big fuss, and the other bishops across the country are looking at that and they're saying, gosh, I'd rather not pick that fight right now. There doesn't seem to be too many people supporting Archbishop Naumann, and there's a lot of fervor. I mean, the media is all over him, and social media looks like it's primarily negative. There just aren't a lot of people supporting him, and so I'm going to give that another 6 months or a year and wait and see. But in reality, what we need to do is, as people that do understand, that do recognize reality and recognize the science and the history and the truth behind all of what Archbishop Naumann has done, is we need to reach out to Archbishop Naumann, his diocese, and say thank you very much for that, and encourage our local bishops and dioceses and archdioceses to do the same if they haven't already done so. So that's some of my observations for this week on Friday Afternoon Catholic, and that's kind of a hot issue in the news this week. So hopefully you can take the time now to go on to the I think there's a Facebook page for the Archdiocese of Kansas City, and there is a website for the Archdiocese of Kansas City that you can email them directly. You can send them a letter in the snail mail. You can do your own open letter. You can do a letter to the editor of your newspaper. There's a lot of different ways that you can reach out and say, yeah, we agree with this and we want more of this. We want our parishes to be really harbors of truth and justice and faith, not incubators for misinformation and distortion, things like that. And that's really what some of these groups that get involved in local parishes do. I mean, we've got some groups that purport to be groups that reach out to people with same-sex attraction and try to help them, and in reality, a lot of them simply pat them on the back and say, go for it. Jesus loves you no matter what you do, which is a lie. Jesus loves you no matter what you do, but there's consequences for those actions, and justice says that if you unrepentantly engage in sin, in immoral behavior, and things that are contrary to the teachings of Jesus Christ, that there's going to be consequences for that, and those consequences are going to be potentially very severe. And so a group like Courage, who really tries to help these people live lives of chastity and lives of faith, and separate themselves from the behaviors associated with the homosexual lifestyle, that's a very good group to have in your parish. But then there's these other groups that just absolutely confuse people and cause more bad than good. And so Girl Scouts of the United States of America doesn't rise quite to that level, but it really is working with our youngest Catholics and really sending them a mixed message, one that could stick with them for the rest of their life and really cause problems. Some people said, well, gosh, shouldn't you shouldn't you be going after these other organizations that truly do promote abortion, and not bother these little girls in Girl Scouts? Well, let's take Starbucks for an example. I don't, go to Starbucks. I don't buy things from Starbucks. If I know a product is made by Starbucks, I'll either not buy it or I'll find something else. And so I kind of do that naturally with any organization. Target's another one. I don't do any business with Target anymore. But the fact is that Girl Scouts, Target's, kind of play on words, our youngest children, our young girls, and it's the parents of those children that probably don't know that they're putting them in that risk of getting all this misinformation, or that the money that they use to support their local troop, some of it's ending up at the national level and going into Planned Parenthood and these other organizations that really promote an anti-Catholic lifestyle. So we don't want our children, our vulnerable children, being exposed to these things, and we don't want unknowing parents to be misled into these things, because that's really evil. So not going to Starbucks is one thing. There's no children being indoctrinated at Starbucks, or shouldn't be anyway. People who go to Starbucks know that they're probably doing business with a very progressive organization that supports things like same-sex behavior and abortion and contraception, and so they go there knowing that typically. But if you do know it and you don't agree with it, you don't go there. And if you still go there, you should stop. But that's not a requirement, because then again, we all have the ability to go in and make a change, which is one thing that some of the people the last time around suggested they were doing. They said, well, gosh, isn't it easier for us to stay in Girl Scouts of the United States of America, to stay in our local troop, because, gosh, you can do a lot more good from inside these organizations than outside. And that is the absolute truth. And that's probably why Archbishop Naumann has not said you can't be Catholic and belong to these organizations. What he simply said is, me, as the head of all these Catholic parishes in my archdiocese, I can't in good conscience facilitate this. So we have to stop this on an archdiocese level. But if individual Catholics want to continue to work for change inside these organizations and protect their kids on a one-on-one basis from any misinformation, or make sure that the money being used really is going only to the local troop, maybe they don't sell the cookies and buy the badges and the vests and things like that make money for the national organization, then continue to fight for the good from within these distorted and corrupted organizations. So when that came up a few years ago, I responded to one of my critics, and I said, you want to stay involved in this, and you think that you can create good. What have you done so far to make change within the Girl Scouts? There was no response. They hadn't done anything. I don't know if that changed. Hopefully, after our conversation, they did go out and they did write to the state office and the national office, and they did make some changes locally to maybe eliminate the cookie sales, maybe change the way things were run locally so that no money was going national, or as little as humanly possible was going national, or maybe they tried to get on boards that would affect some change. I kind of doubt that, because the demeanor that they had was that I was evil, and that these girls should be left to participate in the Girl Scouts regardless. And that's just really unfortunate, because great change can come from the inside, but it takes a lot of effort. There's going to be a lot of pushback from the higher ups, and in the Girl Scouts of the United States of America, the management, the people on the board and such have an agenda, and the agenda is very contrary to the Catholic Church, and so there's going to be a lot of pushback. But hopefully, locally, we'll have some American Heritage Girls groups starting. We've had a small group of girls start the Little Flowers group, which I think is a fantastic group for the kids, and they really enjoy it. That's basically for kindergarten and up, grade school age kids. But I don't know if American Heritage Girls has really gotten to start locally, and I sure would like to see it. So thanks for giving me a little time. Thanks for paying attention to that. If you're still there, are you still there? And we'll see what the reaction is across the country now over the course of the next few months with Girl Scouts. So thank you very much, and we'll see what comes up next.